Sancho was originally just hanging out with Don Quixote because he thought he'd get like fame and fortune or something like that, but towards the end he started being a real convert and really believing what Don was into.
Do you believe what she's doing?
Well, I believe in her cause. Suzanne's out there living her dream. Even early on in life, when she started deciding to do these performances as an underdog, she made a very clear distinction that she is not underdog, she is an actress portraying underdog, which she feels is the most flawless interpretation of underdog there is. She's taken away all the silliness and just given you the real superheroic element.
I always wanted to make Underdog a more dignified character than he was always shown. They always showed him in a very campy, comical, silly motive.
But don't you think that the creator of the Underdog, Mr. Harrison, intended it to be comical?
Well, he meant for the character to be strictly a children's cartoon character, but that didn't stop a lot of cynics and critics from finding fault with the character. My parents especially were very critical of the character and the series. I was taught to despise how he was always presented in a comic vein. And that automatically meant, well, he had to be improved upon or else nobody would appreciate him.
She's always trying to correct the character because she felt, or her parents felt, that it's not dignified or it's silly. And she made a conscious decision to interpret it through serious dance to make it more dignified.
When I was researching the history of ballet, I learned how ever since the second quarter of the 19th century, when Marie Taglioni made tiptoe dancing the norm in ballet, the women were always expected to be as light as feathers. And most of the time they were cast in roles of fairies, elves, nymphs, and similar supernatural beings. So that was another reason for my thinking that dancing had to be the way I portrayed Underdog. Now, when I did begin dancing as part, I wasn't allowed to do it in public. I could do it only within the confines of my own room.
Did you have a costume, or you just...
I had a costume, but I was still confined to my own room. My parents would not allow me to do it in public.
Oh, but they wouldn't even look at your dance, or...
No. Because they disapproved of my being interested in a fictitious character. Well, I knew that Underdog was just a fictional character, but they didn't give me the benefit of the doubt. They were convinced that I couldn't tell between fantasy and reality. And because I was so preoccupied with the subject of Underdog in almost everything I did.
I remember her telling me a story about how she's at a meet and greet and stuff like that, just having a great time, a lovely time, and then suddenly she notices a car and her brother looking out the window, and then their eyes meet and the car just drives off, and she knew she was sunk. People are worried about getting busted for drugs or drinking and all this stuff. She's busted for like dressing as Underdog.
Do you still have that first costume that you made?
No. No, I got rid of it after I was, after I forced myself to abstain for it. I stopped doing it for a while as a Lenten sacrifice, and then another subject took my interest.
There was a time that her parents made her put away the Underdog stuff. Couldn't have any Underdog, no Underdog dancing, no costumes, no nothing. She was very upset about that. She was in college at the time, I think. And then that's when she started getting really into Dracula, because she had nowhere to focus her energy. She has this thing where she focuses on something about the truth about it. So she wanted the truth about Underdog, and they wouldn't let her have that anymore. So she was focusing on the truth of Vlad the Impaler, her Dracula dances.
I am Dracula.
With Dracula, she felt that he was maligned because they had this like Bela Lugosi, Dracula, I come to suck your blood. But the real deal is it wasn't about a vampire Dracula, it was about Vlad the Impaler. So she started trying to correct his moral character like she was trying to do for Underdog originally.